The eviction notice felt heavy in my hands as I stared at my brother Marcus across our grandmother's kitchen table. He lounged in her favorite chair, feet propped up on the antique wood, wearing that insufferable smirk I'd grown to hate over the years. "Don't look so shocked, Emma," he said, taking a slow sip of coffee from her cherished china cup. "You had to know this was coming. Grandma always liked me best." My name is Emma Chin, and at 32, I was facing homelessness thanks to my own brother's greed. Our grandmother Rose had passed away 3 months ago, leaving behind her Victorian home where I lived and cared for her during her final years. Marcus hadn't visited once during that time, too busy with his real estate ventures in the city to spare even an hour for the woman who'd raised us after our parents died. The house had been in our family for generations, its walls holding countless memories of Sunday dinners, holiday celebrations, and quiet evenings spent listening to Grandma Rose's stories. I'd moved in 2 years ago when her health started declining, putting my career as an art conservator on hold to become her full-time caregiver. "She wouldn't do this," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "She promised me I could stay here." Marcus's laugh was sharp and cruel. "Promises don't mean anything without legal documentation, sis. And these papers," he waved the deed in front of me, "say everything belongs to me now, including this dusty old house." I watched him carelessly handle the documents our grandmother had treasured, remembering how carefully she'd stored them in her antique secretary desk upstairs. The same desk where she'd kept her most precious possessions, old photographs, letters, and— "You went through her things," I said, the realization hitting me. "You searched her desk." "Of course I did," he scoffed. "Someone had to handle the legal matters while you were busy playing nurse. Found these buried under a bunch of worthless old papers. Lucky for me, right?" The casual way he dismissed our grandmother's treasures made my blood boil, but I kept my expression neutral. Marcus had always been like this, entitled, manipulative, seeing everything and everyone as pieces to be moved around in his game of acquisition and control. 30 days, he continued, standing up and adjusting his expensive suit. "That's more than generous, considering. I've got buyers interested already. This location is prime real estate. Once we get the place and modernize it, it'll sell for triple what it's worth now." The thought of our grandmother's carefully curated home being stripped and modernized felt like a physical blow. Every piece of furniture, every wallpaper pattern, every creaking floorboard told a story. But Marcus had never cared about stories unless they came with dollar signs attached. "You can't just erase her like this," I said, following him as he strode toward the door. "This house meant everything to her." He paused, hand on the doorknob, and turned to face me with an expression of mock pity. "Oh, Emma, always so sentimental. This is business. Grandma's gone, and it's time to move forward. Maybe this will finally force you to get your life together instead of hiding away playing house." As he walked to his Mercedes parked in the driveway, I stood in the doorway watching him go. My fingers traced the worn wooden doorframe where Grandma Rose had marked our heights as children, each pencil line a memory of who we used to be. Marcus had been taller, always reaching higher, but I'd been the one who stayed rooted, who understood the value of home. That night, after hours of crying and raging at the unfairness of it all, I sat in Grandma Rose's study surrounded by the familiar scent of old books and lavender. The antique secretary desk loomed before me, its surface still bearing the marks where Marcus had carelessly rifled through decades of family history. But there was something he didn't know, something Grandma Rose had shared with me during one of our quiet evening talks just weeks before she passed. Running my fingers along the edge of the desk's writing surface, I felt for the nearly invisible seam she'd shown me. With a gentle press, a small hidden compartment clicked open. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, its pages filled with Grandma Rose's elegant handwriting and something else, something that would wipe the smug smile right off Marcus's face. But first, I had some reading to do. I settled into her old armchair, the journal cradled in my lap, and began to read. "My dearest Emma," the first page began, "if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your brother has likely shown his true colors." Little did Marcus know, but Grandma Rose had prepared for exactly this scenario. She knew her grandson all too well, and she left me with something far more valuable than just the house. I might have 30 days until eviction, but that was all the time I needed to set things right. I smiled, thinking of Marcus's confidence, his certainty that he'd won. He had no idea what was coming. Grandma Rose had taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't swift or loud. It's patient, careful, and perfectly timed. Like the restoration work I did with damaged paintings, this would take precision and attention to detail. And I had learned from the best. I spent the next few days poring over Grandma Rose's journal, each page revealing more about the careful plans she'd laid. The leather-bound book wasn't just filled with memories. It contained detailed records of every transaction, every investment, and every secret deal my grandmother had orchestrated over the decades. Marcus might have gotten the house, but he'd overlooked something crucial. Grandma Rose had been far shrewder than anyone suspected. Behind her gentle demeanor and homemade cookies lay the mind of a brilliant businesswoman who'd spent years building an empire right under everyone's noses. My darling Emma, one entry read, "I've watched Marcus grow increasingly consumed by greed. He visits less and less, only appearing when he needs something. I know he'll try to take everything once I'm gone. That's why I've prepared this gift for you, the key to something he can never touch." As I read on, my eyes widened. The Victorian house was just the tip of the iceberg. Grandma Rose had quietly accumulated shares in some of the city's most valuable properties, including several buildings in Marcus's prized development district. She'd done it through a series of shell companies, using her knowledge of old property laws and her connections with the city's oldest families. But the real bombshell came near the end of the journal. Along with detailed documentation of her holdings, Grandma Rose had left me something else. Proof that Marcus had been engaging in fraudulent real estate practices for years. She'd kept meticulous records of his schemes, the way he'd manipulated property values and deceived elderly homeowners. "I couldn't stop him," she wrote, "but I could document everything. The choice of what to do with this information is yours, my dear. Use it wisely." I called my friend Sarah, a corporate lawyer I'd known since college. "Can you come over?" I asked, my voice trembling with excitement. "I need your eyes on something." An hour later, we sat surrounded by papers spread across Grandma Rose's dining room table. Sarah's eyes grew wider with each document she examined. "Emma," she breathed, looking up at me, "this is incredible. Your grandmother wasn't just collecting evidence, she was building a case. These documents prove Marcus has been running a sophisticated fraud operation. If this got out, he'd lose everything." I finished, thinking of his smug face as he'd handed me the eviction notice. His reputation, his business, probably his freedom. Sarah nodded, shuffling through more papers. "The timing is perfect too. See this development project he's working on? The one he's probably planning to sell this house to? According to these records, he's been lying to his investors about property values and zoning laws. If someone were to expose this..." I smiled, remembering Grandma Rose's words about patience and timing. How long would it take to put together a formal case? "Give me 2 weeks," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming. "I know exactly who to talk to at the SEC. They'd been trying to nail Marcus for years, but they never had enough evidence. This is the motherlode." The next morning, Marcus showed up unannounced, probably expecting to find me packing. Instead, I was in the garden, tending to Grandma Rose's prized roses with the same care she'd always shown them. "Still here?" he called out, his expensive shoes crunching on the gravel path. "You know, if you need help finding a place, I might be able to arrange something. A small apartment in one of my buildings, perhaps? At a family rate, of course." I stood up slowly, brushing dirt from my knees. "That's thoughtful of you, Marcus, but I think I'll manage just fine on my own." He frowned, clearly thrown by my calm demeanor. "Look, Emma, I know you're upset, but this is happening whether you like it or not. The buyers are coming to view the property next week." "About that," I said, carefully pruning a deep red rose, "you might want to hold off on any sales for now. Things are about to get complicated." "What's that supposed to mean?" he demanded, his confidence wavering slightly. I just smiled, the same smile Grandma Rose used to give when she knew something others didn't. "You'll see. Oh, and Marcus, be careful with those property valuations you've been showing your investors. Numbers can be such tricky things, can't they?" The color drained from his face. For the first time since this all began, I saw real fear in his eyes. Without another word, he turned and practically ran back to his car. That evening, as I sat in Grandma Rose's favorite chair watching the sunset paint the garden in shades of gold, I felt her presence stronger than ever. She'd known this day would come, had prepared for it with the same meticulous care she'd shown in tending her roses. Each thorny problem needed careful handling, she used to say, but with patience and the right tools, any garden could bloom. I picked up my phone and dialed Sarah's number. "It's time," I said when she answered. "Let's show my brother exactly what Grandma Rose left behind." The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Sarah worked tirelessly, compiling the evidence into an airtight case. Meanwhile, I noticed increased activity around Marcus's office. Cars coming and going at odd hours, lights burning late into the night. He was scrambling, probably trying to cover his tracks. But it was too late. The hammer fell exactly 20 days after he'd served me with the eviction notice. The SEC investigation became public, and Marcus's carefully constructed world began to crumble. His investors pulled out, his partners distanced themselves, and his reputation, the thing he'd valued above all else, lay in tatters. The morning the story broke in the local papers, I stood in Grandma Rose's kitchen making her signature lavender tea. The headline stared up at me from the counter. "Local real estate mogul under investigation for massive fraud scheme." My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "We need to talk. Now." I took my time responding, remembering all the times he'd ignored Grandma Rose's calls when she was sick, all the family dinners he'd missed, all the memories he'd been too busy to make. "Sorry," I texted back. "I'm rather busy today. But don't worry, we have plenty of time to talk. About 10 more days, by my count." 10 days. That's how long it took for Marcus's empire to completely unravel. The SEC investigation revealed everything. The fraudulent property valuations, the forged documents, the elderly residents he pressured into selling their homes for a fraction of their worth. His investors fled in droves, his business partners disappeared, and his reputation lay in ruins. I was in Grandma Rose's garden when he finally showed up, looking nothing like the polished real estate mogul who'd smugly handed me an eviction notice. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and the arrogant smirk had been replaced by something closer to desperation. "You did this," he said, his voice hoarse. "You destroyed everything I built." I continued pruning the roses just as Grandma had taught me. "No, Marcus, you did this to yourself. I just showed everyone who you really are." He collapsed onto the garden bench, head in his hands. How did you know about all of it?" "Grandma Rose knew," I said simply. "She kept records of everything. Every shady deal, every manipulated sale. She saw who you really were long before anyone else did." He looked up sharply. "That's impossible. She was just a sweet old lady who baked cookies and tended her garden." I couldn't help but laugh. That's exactly what she wanted everyone to think. But Grandma Rose was smarter than any of us knew. While you were busy building your house of cards, she was building something real. Something that would last. I pulled out a thick envelope from my pocket, the final piece of Grandma Rose's plan. "Did you know she owned controlling shares in half the properties in your development district? Through various shell companies, of course. She left them all to me." Marcus's face went pale. "You're lying." "Check the records," I said, handing him the envelope. "It's all there. The properties, the companies, everything. She spent years quietly buying up land while you were focused on quick profits and flashy deals." His hands trembled as he read through the documents. "This can't be real. She was just Grandma." "She was so much more than that," I said firmly. "She built an empire right under your nose, and you never noticed because you were too busy looking down on her. Too busy to visit, too busy to call, too busy to see what was right in front of you." I watched as the reality of his situation sank in. Not only had his fraudulent practices been exposed, but now he was learning that the real power in a family had been quietly passing to me all along. "What are you going to do?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I looked around the garden at the roses Grandma had tenderly cultivated for decades. "First, I'm staying in this house. It means too much to too many people to be torn down for another soulless development project. And then I'm going to run things the way Grandma would have wanted. No more pushing out elderly residents. No more destroying historic properties for profit. We're going to preserve what matters, build something meaningful." He stood up, shoulders slumped in defeat. "You won? Just like that?" "This was never about winning, Marcus. It was about doing what's right, something you forgot a long time ago." As he walked away, I could almost feel Grandma Rose's presence beside me, Smell her signature lavender perfume on the breeze. She'd given me more than just property and power. She'd given me a chance to set things right, to protect the community she'd loved so much. The next morning, I woke up early and went to the kitchen, just as I had every morning when Grandma was alive. I made her favorite lavender tea in her cherished china cup and sat in her chair, watching the sunrise paint the garden gold. On a table before me lay the morning paper, its headline announcing Marcus's resignation from his company and voluntary cooperation with federal investigators. Beside it sat Grandma Rose's journal, open to its final page. "Remember, my darling Emma," she'd written, "true wealth isn't measured in property deeds or bank accounts. It's measured in the lives we touch, the communities we build, and the legacy we leave behind. I trust you to carry this forward, to build something beautiful from what I've left you. And never forget, sometimes the sweetest victories come from the most carefully tended gardens." I smiled, sipping my tea and watching the morning light dance across her roses. Marcus had thought he'd won when he found those property deeds, never realizing that Grandma Rose had orchestrated everything, laying the groundwork for a victory that went far beyond mere possession of a house. She'd known exactly what she was doing, cultivating not just her beloved roses, but a future where her true values could flourish. And now, thanks to her careful planning and patient wisdom, that future was finally blooming. In the end, it wasn't just about keeping the house or exposing Marcus's schemes. It was about honoring Grandma Rose's real legacy, one built on patience, wisdom, and the understanding that true wealth grows slowly, like her roses, nurtured by care and attention rather than greed and haste. As I sat there in the morning light, I could almost hear her gentle laugh, could almost see her tending her beloved garden. She'd given me so much more than just properties and power. She'd given me the tools to protect everything she'd loved, to nurture it and help it grow. And that, I realized, was the greatest inheritance of all.